They
So
look at it like, here, you know, if you don't have a relationship with anybody and I have a relationship or we've been, working together in the past or something, then I can probably get my manager can at least talk it out with the senior VP of sales and see if there's a chance that I can work with your branch.
oh, it looks like my camera came on now.
Yeah, nice shirt, man. I dig that.
That's so strange that it just came on at a random time. But I did hit record. Well, I won't share it on the Nexa Facebook page. What I'm thinking that I want to have some of these conversations with different lenders because I need to recruit uh, you know brokers. I want to recruit brokers to Nexa.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have given you permission to. You were going to share with me four things that you did really well or something like that. Is that right?
Sure. I got a list. So if you look at the email that I sent to you, it really covers about 12.
Okay. Okay. Well, you want to, can you share those on the screen and walk me through them?
Yeah.
You should have present now. You should have that button at the bottom. And I just want to know what the right time to call you is.
So LoanStream does, a little bit of they'll do the full gamut. They'll do everything. But I'm primarily a non-QM guy, so that's all I've done for 20 years. So that's where I tend to focus my subject matter expertise. So that's what I can talk to. So while we offer other products, I'm going to spend this conversation with us just reviewing the non-QM piece of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have 100%. The one thing I would tell you is that we offer, and you may already have this, I don't know, but we have a.
Did you share your screen?
I don't know. I've drug it over here, so I don't know if you see it or not.
Oh, I think you have to click present now. Do you see present now at the bottom?
I do not.
Okay. Do you see me?
I do.
Okay. Um, so do you see the time and WR at the bottom? Do you see that raise hand sign and present now and all that stuff? Send a reaction. You don't see those buttons?
I do. I do. I see a raise hand. Oh, there's an arrow. Okay, present
Click
now.
present now. See if that'll show me what you're going to walk through.
Where is that?
I might have to figure out a way to do this without using. I've got four screens in front of me, and I wonder if that causes me some problems when I go to do this kind of thing.
Let's see. All right, so it looks like it's going to show that screen up there. So I guess I need to drag. That.
There it is. There you are. Okay, perfect.
So let me see if I can figure out how to drag this. Let's go back to email. All right. Let's see if I can drag this over to here. All right. So can you see that screen?
What I see right now is your banner that says Unleash Your Borrower's Potential, and it's changing the banner at the top, wholesale lending from one lender, get approved.
You don't see the email that I just drug over?
Nope, I do not. I see that. I'm still seeing your screen. You're probably just presenting. I wonder what that's doing. You're probably presenting that.
Well, that's weird because I drug this. email over to that screen,
Maybe
and you,
stop presenting and present again with that email up.
I don't see where it gives me that option.
It's odd. What about
Oh,
about
stop,
going
stop
to-
sharing. All right, hold on. All right, now if I go to,
Yeah, you sharing
usually when you're doing these, you can just drag stuff to the, you're sharing that particular screen. And if you drag something over to that screen, it
Okay,
takes,
well, I'll tell you what if I share it? Let's see what happens if I share it. Share now. And I share this. Can you see that now on your screen?
I can.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about that.
Yep. So I guess I will. All right. So in this screen, as you'll see, I tried to highlight some of the differences that I feel like LoanStream, some options that they do differently than most of the other non-QM lenders that I've worked for in the past or that are out here in the market space currently. So, condo tails has been something that's kind of surfaced in the past 6 months. It's come into play. I don't see a ton of that in where we live, but clearly, if you were to go down to the coast, particularly Myrtle Beach, it comes into play a lot more. So, in a minute, I'll share with you a matrix that you'll be able to see. I'll highlight some of these, and actually, it might be down on the bottom of this as we scroll down. The DSCR product, you hear that lots of people have DSCR, but some of the cool things that LoanStream does that other lenders do not. Number one, we allow gift funds on investment properties.
Shut up. Whoa. Gift funds on investment properties.
Correct. So whether it's full doc, bank statement, DSCR, any type of a investment property, we will allow gift funds. Now, the borrower needs to have 5% of their own funds so that, it's a normal qualifying. You qualify for whatever LTV you qualify for. But if you used 100% gift funds, then we're going to back.
Let me just a second. I need to decline that. Did you hear me? All right, cool. Okay, so they need 5% of their own money, and then they can use gift funds for the other 10%.
Or whatever the other difference is, if they want to. Correct. Now, if you use 100% gift funds, we'll back your LTV down by 10%. So if you normally would have qualified for an 80 LTV loan, if you use 100% gift funds, you would be back down to 70. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay. On the DSCR product, scroll down just a little bit. We'll just cover this real quick, or make that screen big, whatever you want to do. All right, so use your other slide bar down at the bottom and slide it over to the right. All right, so when you're looking at this matrix, on the left side is full doc and bank statements. On the right side is DSCR. So you'll see I highlighted in green on the DSCR some of the things that are attractive, right? So we go down to a 620 score. That's lower than most. It'll get you 70 LTV. So you can get on the board at 70 LTV with a 620 score.
Okay, and that's anything under $1 million.
Up to $1 million. That is correct.
And what's the minimum loan for you guys?
So if you look down in that, so keep your focus in that middle column, because that's 99% of the business that you're going to do. So as you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the minimum loan amount is 100,000 right there where your mouse is. Up a little bit. Right, a little bit more. Go up another 2 inches. And bam, there it is.
Minimum is 100,000. Okay, cool. So 100,000 is the minimum loan amount. That means the minimum purchase price is going to be close to 130, 140 ish.
125, I think, if my math's right.
Okay.
100,000. They don't do many exceptions right now for loan size either. So yeah, 125,000.
Okay, you need 3 months of reserves if you're an inexperienced investor. Cash out cannot be utilized. 60%, 65% loan to value. What's that greater than 65% loan to value?
Where you at?
I'm in the green square. Oh, you can see my mouse right here.
So that's for reserves. So if you're under 65 LTV, I don't think you need any reserves.
Got it. Okay.
If you're over 65, then it goes to 3 months reserves. Let me get my.
And 12 months for foreign nationals.
Yeah, foreign nationals we're not really doing right now because we got to get a guideline changed. At the moment, we require U.S. credit. So unless you have a borrower who's been, who comes to the U.S. fairly often and has established some U.S. credit, I'm not going to be much help on foreign nationals at the moment.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now,
So,
a couple of the things that you want to pay attention to in that middle column on the DSCR. Number one, we'll do rural property. So right where we saw minimum loan amount, if you go down just a little bit, you see that we will do rural properties to 65% LTV. So where we live, that comes into focus every once in a while, right? So it used to be a deal breaker. And the only way we knew it was rural is when we got the appraisal back and the boxes checked rural. Where we struggle a little bit in the Carolinas is that a lot of appraisers want to call our properties rural based on the population density in the county that you're from. So if you're under 25,000 in that area, metropolitan area, whatever, they'll call it rural. So you can ask the AMCs if it comes back rural. I've won a few deals in the past couple months, probably 2 or 3, where we've gone back to the AMC and asked them, listen, we're not on a dirt road. We've got city water, city sewer. We've got proximity to schools and shopping. Everything we check the box on except the population density. Where are you getting that data? Is it from 1990 census? Things are a lot different in the Carolinas now. There's lots of people moving here. So we've gotten them to change it to suburban, which obviously helped us get the LTV that we were trying to get.
Okay, perfect.
While we're in that space, you'll see at the very bottom, it highlighted interest only. So on our DSCR product, we'll let your payment be qualified on the interest only payment, or you can have the option of using a 40-year term. And so your DSCR ratio and reserve requirements will be calculated with that particular payment. So you don't have to use the fully amortized all-in PITIA payment for qualifying. Now, if you notice at the top, I have highlighted, go back to the very top. You notice that right there, I've got that DSCR ratio 1.0 or more. We get the highest LTVs with a DSCR ratio of 1 or higher. So you notice that we'll go to a 85 LTV with a, what does that say, a 720 score?
Yeah.
But the catch is just underneath those numbers, you see I highlighted greater than 80 LTV requires a 1.20 DSCR ratio.
Okay. So for people that don't know, and let's pretend I don't know for a minute, a 1.0 DSCR ratio means that the appraiser says this will rent for X, and that's the same number as your PITI.
That is correct.
So 1 would be the same, and if we want to go 1.2, okay,
you would need the average market rent to come in at $1,200, and your payment wouldn't exceed $1,000. Then you'd have 1,200 divided by 1,000 equals 1.2.
Okay, DSCR select is 1.25.
It is. So DSCR, you got to have a stronger borrower. We don't really price that. We don't see that in this market, right? Not with these rates. So to get to a 1.250 DSCR ratio, it's not impossible. It's just seldom.
Got it.
So
Okay, so
I
then-
don't focus much effort in pricing select. I don't focus much effort pricing select on either of these programs, either side, just because it's such a narrower bucket to fit into. You'll dig yourself into a corner that you'll have to come scratching and clawing out of when your borrower accuses you of baiting and switching them on the rate.
Got it.
If you quote those rates are a little bit better, right? They could be a quarter better, but then you get into underwriting and you realize that there's something that they didn't quite fit into that bucket. And now the rate's a quarter higher, and that's a hard conversation.
So DSC, the select DSCR, it's going to be rare. DSCR one, this middle one is most of the time. The no ratio means
So
what?
it used to be a true no ratio, but when the markets spiked a year ago now, the actual no ratio went away, and we put a floor in there of ratio of minimum 0.75. So again, it used to be we would just turn a blind eye as long as you were putting 20 or 25 or 30% down, we didn't care. Not in this market. So your minimum DSCR ratio now needs to be 0.75. And if you're between 0.75 and 0.99, they're going to cap your LTV at 70.
Okay, now this short-term rentals thing, with a DSCR loan, the appraiser is going to put a rent value on the appraisal, correct?
That is correct. So take your right slide bar, slide all the way down to page 2. Keep going, and bam. All right, go back up, and it's right there. So there's nope, back over to the right there where your mouse is. It says short-term rentals. Just nope, down right there.
Right here. Okay.
So what you'll notice is with the short-term rentals, we give you a few options. First of all, if you use short-term rentals, we're going to reduce your LTV by 5%. So again, the max, you can still get 80 LTV, but you can't get 85 if you're doing short-term rental.
Okay.
No
first-time investors, no inexperienced investors. Okay, so somebody has experienced long-term rentals. They've never done they don't have any experience short-term rental. Do they count as experienced?
As far as I know, that's a good question. I'd probably bounce that off my scenario desk. But the way I understand the definition, if you scroll up just a little bit, it'll give you the definition of experienced and inexperienced. So right there in yellow, you got it right there. Right there.
Okay. On 2 or more properties greater than the most
recent 12 months.
What does that mean? Greater than the most recent 12 months. Oh, in other words, more than 12 months.
Correct.
Okay. Own 1 investment property for greater than the most 24 months. Okay. 1 for 24 or 2 for 12. Inexperienced investor must have owned a residence in the most
recent 12 months.
12 months.
So honestly, I don't sweat that too much as long as somebody's owned a property in the past, year. You can still be an inexperienced investor and do 80 LTV. We're not really doing more than 80 LTV anyway, right? I mean, with these rates to get to 85 LTV is not happening with these high rates.
Got it.
So as long as you're at 80 LTV or less, as long as your borrowers have owned a property, primary or investment in the most recent 12 months, then we're good.
Okay, very good.
As long as you're good at 80 LTV. To that point, one of the differentiators between Loan Stream and other lenders, you don't have to own a primary residence. So places I've worked for in the past, if you didn't currently own a primary residence, you couldn't do a DSCR deal.
Okay.
So here, as long as you've owned a property, you could be back living, renting somewhere and still do an investment purchase using the DSCR product. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you right there at the bottom under the short-term rentals, first and foremost, you can't do rural property using short-term rentals. You can do rural on, just normal, but you can't do it on the short-term rentals.
Got it.
But one of the other niches that comes up every so often, and it's a good talking point, is we're okay with properties being vacant. So you see, you could be vacant under the short-term rentals, and if you look to the right, it talks about you can be vacant unleased properties. So it used to be if the appraiser went out and took pictures of the subject property and it came back and, you know, there was no furniture in there, it was a dead deal. Well, now I can do it. Just you're not going to get the LTVs that you want, but it's still doable.
Okay, max LTV is 70% if you're buying it and going to turn it into a short-term rental, or
Yeah,
buying
well,
it and turn it into a long-term rental.
But on a purchase, that's on a refi. So on a
Okay.
purchase, it's gonna be vacant, right? So on a purchase, we're just gonna, that doesn't come into play.
Got it. Okay, very good. Okay.
It's only on a cash out refi really that it is where it really has the teeth that kills people, right?
Okay. So
On the real quick before I forget, on the short-term rentals, we give you 3 ways to make that work. We use the average market rent off the 1007 or the 1025 if it's a multi-unit, right? So if the average market rent works and our DSCR ratio comes in at 1 or higher, good, you're good. If it doesn't, they'll use AirDNA software. And if they have enough AirDNA software for that particular area and we can get it to work, then that's acceptable. Lastly, on a purchase, they'll even allow us to capture the departure short-term rental data from the seller. So if somebody's got a 12-month history of Airbnb VRBO, we can look at that data to try to make the deal work.
okay. All right. That's great to know.
Lastly, if you look up just a little bit, it talks about limited trade lines. So as in any non-QM loan, there's no private mortgage insurance on any of our programs. So we have to document a borrower's ability to repay most of these loans, not on a DSCR deal, but we look at credit, right? We like to see housing history. We like to see some credit depth. If a borrower doesn't have trade line requirements, meaning 3 trade lines for 12 months or 2 for 24 months that have activity in the last 12 months, then I can still do 70 LTV.
Got it. Okay. I'm running into people who, well, I'm in this boat. My primary residence is paid off, but I've got plenty of other trade lines. It's not a requirement for the primary to be mortgaged.
No, and it's okay for your housing history to meet that guideline requirement. You simply would produce a HOI deck page that showed no mortgage liens tied to that property, and that would get you past the housing history requirement. If you look to the left under the full doc, scroll back to the left, it talks about your trade lines, the third one from the bottom, trade line requirements.
Got it. This gift funds on investment property.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowed for a DSCR loan.
It is. We even do gift of equity.
You're kidding.
No, even on DSCR, you can't do gift of equity on the select product. But if you look on page 2, at the very first one in green right there, it talks about gift funds.
Gift of equity not allowed for select. Okay.
So that's, again, I don't quote select. I don't want to ever put myself in. I've been doing this way too long. Again, if you got a squeaky clean borrower, we can talk about it. It's just not worth that. If you mess up, you just, the bait and switch on the rate is more painful. It's always better to, under promise and over deliver. So if it ends up getting into underwriting, we can squeeze into the select, great, but I just don't quote it on the front end.
Okay. It's November the 1st of 2023 and rates are pretty high historically. I mean, for the last 20 years, this is a high rate time. Mm-hmm. DSCR, all of these things are beautiful. How big of a rate hit does it take to do a loan stream loan with DSCR?
You mean what's an average?
Yeah, let's say that you weren't doing DSCR right now. You're doing an investment property. What you're probably going to pay eights and somewhere in the eights.
You'd be most of the time. It seems like I'm in the nines.
Okay. So,
you know,
but
the
now I
thing-
jumped into your DSCR. How much of a rate hit does that take?
Well, you just be in the nines. I mean, it could be in the tens. It just depends on where we're at. So, if you're at a 620, you're going to be in double digits,
Right.
even at 70 LTV. But
Okay.
if you got a 40 score,
Yep.
it won't be that bad. So I'll price one out for you real fast while we're talking. And
okay, let's say 722 rate. Credit score. Let's say a $150,000 property, DSCR. What else do we need to know? Do Hickory, North Carolina, 28601.
28601.
What else do you need?
It's a 30-year fixed 722 mid score. I'm going to put a DSCR ratio of 1. It's a single family detached.
Yeah, sure.
And we want to do 80 LTV. $150,000. Hickory. Now, at 80 LTV or less, if you ever, once I get you logins and you're pricing some loans out using our lounge pricing portal, if you ever get it to where you're not seeing any rates, it's almost always because of either the prepayment penalty or the amount of reserves.
Tell me about prepayment penalty.
Well, it's interesting because in North Carolina, it's always been a standard 3-year prepay, right? Everybody, that's just what we do. That's under the way Loan Stream currently views it in North Carolina. They don't like a prepayment penalty if a borrower's closing in their personal name. So again, in the DSCR space, these are considered business purpose loans. By classifying loans as business purpose loans, then we can close title. We can allow you to put title in an LLC. So again, they qualify personally. They sign a promissory note, but the title can be put in an LLC at closing.
And so that has a 3-year prepayment penalty.
That's the standard 3 years. So it's 6 months interest on 80% of the unpaid balance, or whatever the initial balance is. But you can buy it down, you can buy it out. It just costs money. So, 1% fee typically buys out the prepayment penalty. But I'm going to really confuse you because it confused me. And I'm getting this fixed. I think within the next, month or so, we'll have this fixed. Loan Stream looks at the state of North Carolina and said they interpret the rule that you can't have a prepayment penalty if a borrower is closing a loan in their personal name. So they force us to buy out the prepayment penalty. Loan Stream also interprets the quarter discount point rule differently than any other lender I've ever worked for. So currently, the maximum discount points that they are allowed to charge in the state of North Carolina is a quarter. How that plays out is if you do an investment property and they're going to close in their personal name, we're going to buy out that prepayment penalty, but instead of it costing a full point, it's going to cost a quarter of a point.
Wow.
Yeah. So I haven't complained about it too bad because most people can sell that, right? I mean, that's not that big of a deal. It's actually okay. But that said, it's going to get changed and it'll go back to a standard 3-year prepay. If you wanted to buy it out, it'll cost you a point. Otherwise, you get the best pricing with a 3-year standard prepay.
And when is that going to happen?
They got to recode Encompass. So I just got an email today. I don't know.
Oh.
It could be a month. It could be 6 months. I don't know.
Okay. Got it. Okay. All right.
If you're going to close in an LLC though, all day long, there's a 3-year prepay.
Okay. And that 3-year prepay, you said if you decide to, let's say you decide to refinance a year into it, they want you to pay 6 months of interest.
on the for initial balance.
6 months of interest on initial balance. Okay.
Mhm. Now, in the scenario that you gave me at ADLTV, your par rate's 9.875
9.875.
on
So
a 30-year fixed with
so
a
that's
three-year prepay.
9.875 paying the broker zero.
That is
broker
correct.
wants to get paid, they got to charge some points.
They have to. So you are absolutely correct. In this current crazy secondary market, we're not paying lender pay compensation. Is it going to change? Sure. But the volatility in the secondary markets, they're just giving everybody haircuts.
So it's all borrower paid.
That's right. Because everybody's worried, at the high rates, if rates ever lower, everybody and their brothers are going to refinance, right? They're going to take the refi into a lower rate. You're going to lose out on the early payoff. You're going to lose out on the lender pay comp that you paid out. I mean, you'll take a bath on these loans.
Right. So that 9.875, are there any other fees? Is there an origination fee or anything from you guys?
Our only fee is $1,995, and that's all inclusive of underwriting, tax, flood, the full boat, everything. $1,995.
Got it. Okay. Underwriting, tax, and flood. This is going to sound like a stupid question. I'm going to sound like I know nothing about what I'm talking about. Why is tax and flood an underwriting fee?
It's not. They're separate fees. It's all inclusive of all fees. I just regurgitate. I'm not a compliance guy. I don't know how to explain that to you. Right. I'm just regurgitating what they tell me, right?
Right. I got it. Okay. I don't have a clue what that means. In my mind, tax and flood would get paid to geez, I don't even understand that statement. Why would the lender, the wholesale lender, be touching the tax and flood? But maybe somebody will answer that question for us. Okay. Hey, so if I want to call LoanStream, I probably am going to call LoanStream because I want to do a DSCR, maybe a short term, maybe I want to lower a higher loan to value. What else would cause me to call LoanStream?
So slide to the left and go. You can go back up to the bullets. We'll go down to bullets real quick.
Okay.
Let me get back to that screen on mine so I can see better. I can't see these days. All right.
Mid score down to 600 allowed. That's not on DSCR, is it?
No, in DSCR it's 620.
Yep. So the down to 600 is allowed on full doc.
That is correct, or bank statements.
Okay.
So and I highlight that so you can see right down there at the top of that matrix. You'll see the 600 scores.
Okay, got it.
All right, so slide back up, going down the real quick. We'll hit those highlights. So condo hotels, DSCR, rural was good. Gift funds we talked about. Mid scores to 600. All right, so on full doc and bank statement loans on a primary residence, we allow non-occupying co-borrowers. So if grandma wants to go on her granddaughter's loan, as long as grandma's not the primary wage earner, we're okay with that.
As long as grandma's not the primary wage
That
wage
is
earner.
correct. That's correct. You can't be the primary wage earner.
Okay. This must be non-conforming still. Is that right?
We're only going to talk non-conforming. I'm not ever going to talk to you about agency loans. This is
Got it. Okay.
Everything we're talking about is non-conforming.
Got it. Okay. Gift
All
of
right.
equity allowed on primary and second home and non-occupied owner.
Non-owner.
Property.
Yep. Any property.
Okay.
1 day seasoning on a bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale, deed in lieu, down to a 600 score. So at that C grade, when you're looking at right below us, you see that C grade. If you run into somebody that's got banged up credit, just came out of a short sale or whatever, you could be 1 times 120 on your mortgage payments in the last 12 months. We'll still do the loan at a C grade to 70 LTV.
Okay. I feel like there's got to be a catch I'm missing. You're telling me somebody could have filed bankruptcy yesterday.
If it's discharged.
It's got to be discharged. Got it. Okay.
Yep. And they can do 70 LTV.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, remember, history has proven time and again, the non-QM space, these loans perform. And the reason that they perform, even without private mortgage insurance, is that these loans are fully underwritten with a borrower's ability to repay these loans, right? We're not doing stated income, stated assets, no income, no assets. All that's out the window. The biggest reason why people pay their loans is they're putting skin in the game.
Yeah.
You put 20 to 30% down on a loan, you're going to have to cut somebody's arm off to take it from them. They're going to pay that.
That makes perfect sense.
So we're willing to gamble that if somebody puts down 30%, even at a 600 score, they're not walking away from that loan.
Okay. I agree. I get that. Credit enhancement program. What does that mean?
So instead of having to ask for an exception, there's a form that we'll give you access to on the website, and you can simply plug in the answers. How much months of reserves do they have? What kind of, excuse me, what kind of residual income do they have? What's their debt to income ratio? And based on those answers, it'll give you points. And then if you get enough points, then you can go from, say, a B grade to an A grade, which might be the difference in 5% LTV or something.
Okay.
So it's way for you to get a little bit better pricing, way for you to get a little bit, sometimes to move the buckets for the LTV.
Okay. Asset utilization amortizes liquid assets over 60 months, not 360, and allows borrowers liquid assets in addition to their qualifying full doc banks held with DTI. If somebody's got liquid assets, in other words, they got $100,000 in the bank, we can divide that by 60 and count it as income?
Yeah, we have a worksheet that will allow you to put it on a Excel spreadsheet. And there's two tabs on that worksheet. There's one that is with DTI and one that's without DTI. So in your example, with DTI, somebody is going full doc or bank statement. They have some income. And let's say the loan gets into underwriting. The underwriter is a bank statement loan, and the underwriter decides they don't like some of the transfers, or some of the deposits are weird and they make you source them and you can't source them to prove that they're income. So they back them out of the bank statement calculation. Now your back end DTI is over 50%, blowing your deal up. Well, we'll let you take a borrower's liquid assets, put them on a spreadsheet, and convert that to a monthly qualifying income amount. So for instance, a borrower under 59 and a half, they have $100,000 in a 401k. That converts to roughly $1,333 per month in extra qualifying income.
Okay, so help me understand. In my mind, a 401k is not a liquid asset.
It is in our world. So as long as it's not, doesn't have, it can be cashed out. So it could be stocks, bonds, IRA, 401k, checking, savings. Any of that is considered liquid. What's not liquid is an asset such as a car, camper, boat, land. You know, we consider something liquid that you could cash it out that same day, right? You could, log in and move money. Got it.
Okay. The 55% DTI of 660, that seems pretty obvious.
Now, real quick, back to that asset utilization.
Right.
That's in addition to your, so let's say you had $5,000 worth of full doc or bank statement income, but it wasn't working. You'd add that 1333 in addition to that 5,000 to give you 6,333 for qualifying income. The flip side,
use that liquid asset with no income.
That is correct. So for your high net worth borrowers that don't have a job, they sold a business, they have family money, they got divorced and got a big settlement, they got injured, and, sitting on a pile of money, won the lottery, you just have to be able to season your funds for a minimum of 90 days. So you have to turn in 3 statements, most recent statements, or we're going to put them on a worksheet, and it'll tell you what the qualifying income is. In this instance, it's going to give you a green light or a red light. So based on you have to be able to cover your loan amount plus 6 months reserves plus 5 years worth of your consumer credit debt. Places I've worked for in the past, they wanted the borrower to have $500,000 post closing. We don't have that requirement. So if you're buying a $250,000 house and you've got $325,000 in liquid assets, you can make it work as long as you can show that you can cover the loan amount plus 6 months reserves plus 5 years worth of consumer credit debt. So you got $1,000 worth of car loans and credit card loans. That would be $60,000. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay. No tax returns. We're not asking for no transcripts, no tax returns, no DTI.
You're asking, you would ask for tax returns on a full doc, but with the bank statement deal, using these assets, we don't need to see tax returns.
On a full doc deal, we typically, yes, the answer is yes, if the underwriter needs to see the tax returns. But most of the time, I think full doc is just like a normal full doc. Unless they're self-employed, you're just doing W-2s and pay stubs, right?
Okay. Okay. Very good. All right. 1 year.
Just for the record, our full doc is no different than Fannie Mae's full doc. I mean, there's no secret sauce on full doc stuff. The only time we got secret sauce is when it's bank statements or asset utilization or DSCR. Full doc is full doc is full doc.
Okay. 1 year self-employed bank statement and verification of employment only programs. What's a 3-month bank statement program?
So you got somebody that in the last 3 months has a lot of income. You do a 3-month program and use the higher balance, have higher average balance income. The only thing is, if you do a 3-month bank statement program, you have to turn in a borrower prepared P&L. So it doesn't have to be an audited CPA financials, but they have to turn in their QuickBooks or, borrower prepared profit loss. Those have to gel with the bank statements. They need to be within like 10% variance of one another. If they're not, it won't work.
Okay, got it.
On a typical bank statement loan, there's no P&L required.
Okay.
The other beautiful part about the bank statement loan also, we will do the income calculation for you on the front end. So before you take an app and trigger any TRID, before you waste $100 on a credit report, we'll let you upload the bank statements into our EasyCalc bank statement portal, and we will tell you what the average income is. Now, the underwriter still has to review it and sign off on it. But at least it gives you a gauge on whether you got a workable deal or a dead deal before you invest any more time and money.
Yeah, that's great. And you said you can upload the bank statements into an EasyCal. I'm assuming that has to have some human eyes on it, right?
So you'll go to our website and I'll show you where all this is. You don't even have to be logged in to do that. You just go to the loanstreamwholesale.com and go into the resources tab down. I think it's the 4th one down, the EasyCalc. You'll put in some, it'll ask you some questions. So it'll ask you for your personal info. It'll ask you about who's your account executive. And as you work down through it, you get done with the left side. On the right side, it starts to ask you about the actual borrower. And a couple of the questions are going to ask you how many employees do they have and how do they have a product or a service business. Based on how you answer, the next question is going to say, do you want to use in the calculation, do you want the worksheet to use a standard default expense ratio, or are you going to provide a CPA expense letter? For the initial calculation, you're just going to take the standard worksheet assigned what the default. So based on how you answered those questions on the number of employees, it will assign you an expense ratio. So for instance, if you put down, answer the question that the borrower has 0 to 1 employees and they're in a service-based business, meaning, they do what you and I do, working out of their house, sitting on their office at their house. That expense, you don't have any expenses. So it will give you a standard default expense ratio of 20%. If you put down that you have between 2 to 10 employees and you're in a service business, the standard expense ratio is going to be 50%. Now, let's assume you get your worksheet back and you're like,
Okay,
well,
so wait a minute. You take that information, but then you're going to need to plug in what? Total credits, total debits for 12 months?
no. So they use artificial intelligence to pull the data off of the bank statements. So it's going to give you, it's going to pull all the
You're going to
deposits.
literally upload the bank statements and it's going to use AI to figure them out.
That's right. It's going to scan those bank statements and it's going to list all the deposits in a column. And then anything that it can pick up on that it should back out, it'll back out. So if it sees a transfer, if it sees that you return something to Walmart, it's going to back those out of the calculation and leave you with what's left. Now, with what's left, the underwriter's got to go through and scrub it when they underwrite the loan. So that, they could pull some of those deposits out of there or make you source them if they're large, or, if something looks weird, they're going to, it's their job to make you source it and verify that it's income. But where I was going with that was I had a scenario in the last month or so where the borrower owned an insurance agency. And when we uploaded the bank statements, we put down, it was a service, and we put 0 to 1 employees. Well, when he filled out his business questionnaire, which every borrower you'll have to upload that. They'll fill out a business questionnaire that gives us a little bit of a snapshot on what did they do. So in this instance, they're an insurance agency, but they put down that they had 4 employees, not just themselves. I had put down 0 to 1. Well, that moved the needle on the default expense ratio from 20% to 50%. Well, that killed my DTI.
Right.
We ended up, though, thank goodness, we had a letter from his tax preparer that stated that his expense ratio didn't exceed 16.67% of his gross revenues. So we plugged in 16.67 in, and we were back on track.
Okay, very good.
Now, we talked about the 1 year self-employed, or I guess I should talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
For a borrower that's been in business for less than 2 years, as long as they have at least 1 year and it's in the same line of work that they were W-2'd in, we're okay. So they were a chiropractor. They were a chiropractor for 3 years and, went and opened their own chiropractor office, but they've only been open for 14 months. I can do 80 LTV with 12 months of bank statements, as long as you can show that they were W-2 chiropractor previous to that.
Okay.
They want to see that they're making enough, the similar amount of money. You can't be losing money. But as long as you're making a similar amount of money, you'll be okay. And I don't remember if that's within a 10% or it seemed like it's 30% variance of whatever they were W-2'd in previously. But most of the time, what you find with the self-employed borrowers, they're making, 200x what they were making W-2, right? They rarely do. They're making less money.
What is short-term rental? I'm skipping the I-10 and DACA because those are very specific. You got to have that customer. Short-term rental comparables are okay on condo and single-family residence. What does that mean?
So when the appraiser goes out to do determine what the average market rent is, with a lot of lenders, you have to use a 12-month annual lease. So even though the property might be on the beachfront and it's short-term rental, the appraiser has to go 2 blocks off the ocean to find a 12-month annual lease. Those 12-month annual leases are historically going to be much less than the short-term rentals, right?
Got it. Okay. Okay. Some
non-warrantable condos. That's not. I got to look at a condo questionnaire. So we do them. Just it's not a blanket wide open. Just because it's non-warrantable doesn't mean we'll do it. So,
got it.
I need to send that to my condo desk to see why it's non-warrantable, and then see if it's something that they're willing to entertain.
FHA Max 1 program. I'm showing my ignorance. I don't even know what that is.
So, one of the big reasons that I wanted to come over here was because in this rate environment that we're in, we need more purchase programs. It's going to be a purchase environment for many years, right? We have a 100% down payment assistance product through FHA. So we'll do the first and the second. And it's kind of like, are you familiar with Chenoa? Have you heard of Chenoa?
I've heard of it, but I'm not very familiar.
So the difference is we don't have overlays. So if there's no first-time home buyer issues, there's no debt to income issues, you have to be within a certain percentage of the income of the county population. There's no overlays on anything. If you get a DU approved eligible, then we're okay with that. We won't do a manual underwrite, but as long as you get a DU approved eligible, you're good to go. So we'll price it. The 100% down payment assistance goes from a 600 score all the way up, right? Well, in this current rate environment, we struggle at the lower credit scores to get pricing that doesn't get killed with a high cost test. So what we used to be able to price out is lender paid comp. Now we end up having to do is borrower paid comp. So what I've been finding is when we run these scenarios, it usually works. Most of the time it works best with a minimum 640 score.
Okay.
640, 660 usually gives you a par rate. If you get into the 600, 620, if you can get it to price, you're probably coming in at 99 and change, 99 and a half. So it's costing the borrower to get there, to get that rate. So it usually will come in at 8.25 on the interest rate, and the borrower's having to pay to get that 8.25. Well,
and there's no chance that if the borrower is bringing a little money to the table, they can pay the comp.
Well, so the way you are correct, but the way it ends up working, we end up buying out the underwriting fee, and we do as borrower paid comp, and then we get it to price. Maybe if you're lucky and you have a 700 score higher, you might even get a little bit of lender credit in the rate. So the rate tends to be 8.25. No matter what score you have, you're going to get 8.25. The difference being at the lower 600 scores, you may have to pay to get the 8.25. It may come in at 99 and a half versus somebody with a 740 score. The 8.25 rate may pay you 100.5. So you get a little bit of a lender credit. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you add in that lender credit with what the borrower has of their own money, which is usually around $5,000. And then you end up going and getting seller concessions to pay the loan officer.
Okay, got it.
And then and to cover whatever else the borrower doesn't have to make the deal whole. So it works, but you need a little, it almost always requires, with these high rates, it's almost requiring seller concessions, $6,000, $7,000 seller concessions usually does it.
Closed-end standalone seconds are available under agency programs. In other words, those are.
And this was old. They're available across the board now. We'll do them non-QM or agency. So we realize that lots of people are sitting at a 2.5%, 3% interest rate that's never going to refinance out of it, but they need help, right? So they're willing. They would take cash out on a standalone second.
Okay.
Pull some equity out of their house to be able to, pay off credit card bills or whatever.
And those are always closed-ended. In other words,
it's not a HELOC. Yeah, it's a 30-year fix, 20-year fix, 10-year fix, whatever. You can get the different terms, but it's not a home equity line.
Got it. Okay. Hey, I'm glad we helped.
We have commercial loans as well that are available to you to broker out. I kind of get removed. I make the introduction for you at the commercial desk, and then I hand you off to them. I'll help collect some data on a one-page form, and then they'll say yay or nay if they're interested. And then I kind of get out of the way. So
I haven't really messed in the commercial world. I've tried to once or twice, and I haven't found a sweet spot for commercial personally.
well, they don't like rural properties, so I can tell you they don't like gas stations, they don't like rural properties, and they don't like restaurants. Everything else though is in play. So if it's industrial, office, mixed use, any of it's good. You can have they'll even do, if you got a builder that's wanting to build a subdivision, if they're have a history of, doing those sorts of projects, they'll even do bridge loans for them and pay out in, I don't even know the right verbiage. They'll pay, as you get done, they'll give you money as you progress through the draws. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, I'm glad we had this chat, and this easy bank statement, easy doc, whatever that is, that portal, I definitely won't access. Well, sounds like you don't even need access, but I think I need to get access anyway to LoanStream and just be ready to run some scenarios for.
The big thing, I would encourage you to, I've been doing this side of the business for 20 years. So where you're going to be able to leverage me is I'm going to make you look good in front of your referral partners. So if it's something that we're going to step in and, get it all over the carpet, we're not going to step in it. We're just going to cut bait and move on to the next deal. So again, the big thing that I'll be able to bring to the table is I'll teach you how to structure these deals. I'll teach you when to cut bait and move on. And I'll teach you to ask the right questions so that we structure the deal correctly. So again, in some of these scenarios, there's different ways to maybe put it together. So if we find out that the person has a high net worth, we can save ourselves a lot of heartburn and just do an asset utilization deal and not mess around with bank statements.
Right. Yeah, that's great to know.
The big thing for you that you have to get some confidence doing is you can't sell rate. You have to get past it. These are short-term loans. It doesn't matter if my rate is 7% or 27%. Your borrower is going to not like my rate, right? They're going to want the lowest rate. They heard on the radio, they are on Google. They see that rates are 6.5 and they want a 6.5% interest rate. Your answer is always, you can get a 6.5% interest rate. I just need you to go refile your taxes. Well, I can't do that. Okay, well, so that conversation's over. Now let's talk about where you're at.
Right.
If you want that 6.5% interest rate, you got that for him all day long, but he's not playing that game.
That's right.
You just have to have the confidence.
Short term, but most of these have that 3-year prepayment penalty, right?
No, none of them have a prepayment penalty unless it's investment property. There is no prepayment penalty on any owner, OC, or second homes. It's illegal.
Got it. Okay, got it. Prepayments only on investment.
Right. But again, you usually get 2 loans out of these. Most of the time people are coming to you because their incomes, they need a 50% back end debt to income ratio, or they got their credit banged up because they missed a car payment or a house payment. Then now they got that ding on their credit and you can't take them FHA. So they come to me, I get it done. They get in the house, as long as they can afford the payment. Again, your conversation shifts to the payment and that you'll get them into a better deal as soon as they qualify. The only ones that might stay with me for long term might be a bank statement loan, right? I mean, if I'm a self-employed borrower, does it make sense to refile your taxes just to get a little bit lower interest rate?
No,
I don't think so. And I would have that conversation with a borrower that's a slippery slope. You start messing around with that and you refile your taxes just to get a lower interest rate, and then you go back and modify that and refile it back the other way to get your money back, you might just be opening up Pandora's box and you're going to get an IRS audit.
Right.
And, that doesn't usually end up very well.
Hey, this was valuable conversation. I am so thankful for your time. I'm
Yeah,
glad to know where you're at too. I will be looking for and talking about DSCR quite a bit now.
Yeah. My next step would be to reach out to my boss, and if you're comfortable with working with me, then I'll see if he can get are you a one-man show, or do you got LOs working for you? How do you operate?
Currently a one-man show, just me.
So I'll see if he can get your branch tagged to me, and since we're both here in the greater Charlotte area. And if he can, great. And if not, then I'll hand you off to the AE out in Arizona, and they'll take just
Okay.
as good care of you.
Okay. Hey, Andy, thanks so much for your call. Thanks for this time. I appreciate it.
Yep, you're quite welcome. Have
All
a
right,
great
man.
day.
Have a great day.
All right, see you.